Welcome back to the Secret Stash podcast. My name is Chuck Charlton with the Charlton Advantage team, and I'm filming this. I had a moment of inspiration here at our office about the question, how is the market? It's a question we get asked all the time, and I think there's a couple of principles that I keep coming back to and I keep explaining to people, and I think it gives what I've noticed is it gives people some peace of mind when they start thinking about what's really going on. So let's start with number one, which is prices and interest rates are inversely related. Okay, and they dance around something, and I'll talk about it in a second. So most of the time what we see is that a 1% rise in interest rates will equate roughly from a carrying cost standpoint to about a 10% reduction in prices. So the example is a $500,000 home at a 3% interest rate or a $407,000 home at a 5% interest rate. That's an 18.6% difference in price and a 2% difference in interest rate. The monthly payment for a mortgage of that size is exactly the same. It's $2,288. So that's the number that I find remains very stable, because if that number, the monthly payment number, goes up by 20%, let's say, and your job doesn't go up by 20%, you're not buying that home. So while prices can go up, and that's for the last 20 years in the GTA, we've found that prices have been escalating because interest rates have been going down. What's going to slow the market is going to be rising interest rates. We had a stress test, which has created an artificial barrier of an extra 2% beyond the interest rates that exist right now. So in other words, your payments are based on a 3.5% interest rate, let's say, but you have to qualify to make your payments on 5.5%, 2% higher. So artificially, the market has said, we're going to limit you. We're going to put some training wheels on your mortgage, and we're not going to let you go past a certain point. So what that's done in the market is a 2% rise in interest rates can have significant downward pressure on prices. So let's go to principle or tenet number 2, which is seasonality. When is the best time to sell a house? I get this question all the time. Well, I'm just going to wait till the spring. Oh, winter's a terrible time to sell. Let me tell you what happens in most markets is that we find that the ratio of buyers and sellers, and that's measured by new listing inventory compared to sales. New listings, obviously competition, and sales is buyer activity. They move up and down in proportion. So in the spring, there's more listings, which is not good for you. More competition is not a good thing. And you find that more buyers enter the market in the spring. The weather gets nicer. They start getting the itch to move. So those go in proportion. In the winter, people say Christmas, oh, it's a bad time. Well, here's what happens. The listing inventory might go down by half, which is a good thing, very good thing. And the number of buyers may go down, but the buyers, if you're shopping for a home in mid-December, you want to buy a house. So oftentimes the buyers can be even more serious in the off-season. Combining that with a shortage of inventory can really create a very favorable scenario for a seller. So it's important to talk about this with your real estate agent. Every home is different. Every situation's different. When I get to number 4, we're going to come back to this principle. But before we do, let's talk about number 3, which is moving to a larger home. When is the best time to upsize or in some cases to downsize? So upsizing, let's say your home is worth $500,000. Let's say the next home is worth $750,000. That's a $250,000 jump. So either the market's going to stay the same or it's going to go up or it's going to go down. There's no other option there. If the market goes up, which most people want, they look forward to that and they're afraid of losing money. But if the property goes up 10%, let's say, you're now in a property worth $550,000, but the next property has gone up by even more. So you've gone up $50,000, the other home has gone up $75,000. You got a $25,000 extra gap beyond where it was before. Now, when the market loses some steam and you lose $50,000, so let's say your property goes down by 10%, you're now worth $450,000. The other $750,000 home has gone down by even more. So the gap has actually gotten smaller when the market's gone down. So the best time to upsize is when the market sucks. So, but going back to number one about interest rates, you want to look at that too to see if it really makes sense. I've seen certain times in the markets where people have done this, they've upsized, and because interest rates have changed and they've caught the right wave, they moved from a semi-detached to a fully detached home and didn't pay anything extra. It was amazing. It was incredible. I had to check my numbers to make sure it was true. Okay, so number 4 is micro markets. The bigger the set of information, the less reliable it is. And what I mean by that is condos can be doing something different than townhouses or detached homes. Even within condos, you might find in a specific marketplace that the 800 square foot condos, price-wise, are doing something completely different than the 1,200 square foot condos. Or you might find that the east side of a town is hot, but the west side is slow. So when we talk about things like the Canadian market, the GTA market, even Milton in some cases, you got to be really careful about how you're interpreting that information. Because I heard a friend say it really well. They said, look, if you stick someone's head in the oven and you stuck their feet in a bucket of ice, the average body temperature would be normal. But I think that's a pretty poor indication of the overall quality of what's going on with the body. So averages are dangerous. Now, bigger is sometimes good to look at trends, but for the most part, when you're talking about specific research for a property like yours, you have to look at micro markets. You have to drill down and get very specific. So principle number 5, our last principle, is the idea that roughly 200 square feet equals a wall. Now, what do I mean by that? I find that the values, at least where I practice, for the most part, stay the same for these kind of properties. So you'll find that for a nominal amount, let's just say it's $600,000 or $700,000, what we find is that a detached 1,300 square foot home would be worth roughly as much as a 1,500 square foot semi or a 1,700 square foot townhouse. Now, in a detached, you're not attached by any walls. In a semi-detached, you're attached by one wall. And a townhouse, you're attached by 2 walls. So it's really, and you'll find that values are very, very similar. People say, detached homes appreciate quicker. Not really, by a little bit, but not as much as most people think. Like we're talking like less, like way less than 1% every year. Over 20 years makes a difference, but 200 square feet equals a wall. So would you rather have a larger 1,700 square foot townhouse, or would you rather have the smaller 1,300 square foot detached home? It's really about your values and what you find important. Value-wise, I wouldn't, the difference is so nominal that I wouldn't worry about it. It's more what's better for you. So that's the 5 tenets or principles of the market that I constantly tell my clients about. I'm going to review them one more time. So prices and interest rates are inversely related. And what is much more stable is the monthly payments. And those are subject mostly to things like inflation. You find that the monthly payment stays pretty stable no matter what the market's doing and goes up a little bit every year. Number 2, the seasonality. The best time to list a home may not be what you think, and sometimes the off seasons are actually the best time to list. Number 3, the best time to move to a larger home is when the market's down. The best time to downsize is when the market's up. Number 4 is be careful with large sets of data when you're looking at a specific set of research for your property. And number 5, 200 square feet equals a wall. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you again with another episode of The Secret Stash.